Hi, I'm Jimmy Ali, and welcome back to Young Daddies, where we get to talk to young fathers about fatherhood. How are you? So, let's start off with talking about sort of what's your name, who are you, and what's your son's name?
So, my name is Maiwa. Yoruba, bring me joy. A little Maiwa means God bring me joy. So, I like to put my name. So, right now, easiest way, creative. So, I do a lot of stuff within sports media. So, editorial, writing, podcasting, etc. And my little mini-me, Micaiah, my son, is 16 months.
Wow.
So yeah, he's do you know what's so funny? Yeah, before I had a son, when people were doing like, oh, he's 16 months,
I was just gonna say that.
he's
Why do
22
you?
months and everything, I used to think, why are these people doing this? But when you have a child, it then makes sense in your head because I can't call him 1.5 because he's not 1.5.
Yeah.
I can't call him 1 because it's like he's not 1. And like to make sure people understand that he's like still a little kid when they're trying to play with him and everything, you have to tell them that he's like 16, do the maths, he's still small. So yeah, now I've got a 16-month-year-old little baba.
Oh, are you together with your partner? Or
Yes.
How long has that been together?
Long time, a long time, a long time. Yeah, a very long time still. So yeah, this is a next step in that journey.
Oh, that's beautiful. How was your relationship with your father and how that sort of changed your dynamic with your son?
So it's interesting. So with me, in terms of my father, there's not much of a direct relationship with her. It's one of those things where I'm aware of who he is. We've had contact and everything, but it's not like we speak or anything. We've not spoken for quite a long time. We've had instances where that connection tries to come back.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it doesn't. And I try my part, etc. But it's just one of those things where life is what it is.
Yeah.
In terms of me going towards fatherhood, it's one of those interesting things because ultimately, especially when you're like a young black male, there's this thing where role models are such a pivotal thing, like because ultimately within society and whatnot, we're already painted with different brushes and everything. One of the brushes that you always get painted is that you don't see many young black dads and everything. So not having one present, it's kind of like in your head, you kind of think like, okay, well, I want to be better than this. Even though there's no sort of demand or conversation about it, you're just thinking that, you know what, I want to do this, I want to make sure I do everything and everything. So knowing or unknowingly, that builds a sort of pressure. So I remember when we found out and everything, in my head, I kind of went into, instead of like sitting with it and then it'd be like this joking thing, I just went into this autopilot where it's like, okay, you know what, you've got to provide, you've got to do this, you've got to pack this, you've got to make sure you've got X, B, A, B, and C sorted. And it was just like boom, 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 boom. And it turned me into this sort of machine where it was like, okay, I've got to stay focused and do this because I have to be this father. And I'm doing that, I realized that I didn't have any reference points to what an actual father was. I've had like uncles and everything, I've played key parts in my life, but I remember telling, like in secondary school, we went on residential, I was like, that's the first time I've actually lived with a male before, because I grew up around women, I didn't have like my dad around, innit? So those sort of things are the things that play in your mind in terms of, okay, well, if I've not had a role model like extensively within my life like that, will I be able to do certain things? If I'm coming across, am I coming across from the point of view that my mum or auntie would come across, or is it like a man's view? Like, how do I, impose certain things, X, Y, and Z? And then you realize that, you know what, it's just a journey, like, and everyone finds their way in it. But it is one of those things that plays in your mind, especially when there is that perception that young black fathers are not present, they're not this, they're not that. So
then how did you find your reference points? Did you look to movies? Did you look to uncles and aunties? Or
you know what's so funny?
Define what a dad is.
You know that typical uncle feel sort of like, that's everyone's pops and everything. That's a massive thing. But I'll be honest, my mum was a massive reference point for me, and not in this whole sort of speech where people are like, oh, my mum was my dad. Don't get my mum did everything for me, but it wasn't that. It was just that my mum was a provider, she was a carer, and there was the pastoral side, there was the caring side. My mum my mum's relationship with me, to a lot of people, because it was just both of us, it was like, especially like the traditional Nigerian upbringing, it was like, oh, you guys are very close, oh, you should be at this and everything. But it benefited me because I realized that, you know what, that works. And that is like, it was just a pure love. So I just took it at that, in terms of there doesn't have to be like a specific reference point. It's about how your love manifests in whatever way you want it to. So that definitely helped me, because my whole thing was, as long as this baby is looked after, cared for, has attention, everything else of how it's supposed to look will sort itself out. And I'm still at that early stage where it's just baby, it's just changing, making happy. I'm not at the stage where it's okay, disciplining or, you know, homework and stuff like that. So that in itself is another journey, because again, I didn't have that from the father perspective, I had it from my mum. So we'll see how it differs there. But the main thing that I've definitely learned and taken aboard is just the attention and love is the thing that needs to be there. And so far, I feel like that is really, really going well for me.
So you, as a young man, did you sort of uncover for yourself what love is and what care is, and how to sort of display that for your children?
Yeah.
Or your partner as well?
Yeah, because that's another thing. I'm very fortunate that, like, me and my partner, like, we work so well. And when you have a child, it's one of those things where it's a completely new thing, like we've not done it before. Yeah. And typically, like, that is your child, but the whole world is looking in, and everyone has an opinion of how to do things. But naturally, because of how I am, where it's we both are quite private people, and it's like, whatever's our business, handling everything. Even when you've got all of those people trying to impose their ideologies and everything, it's about, okay, what do we want to do? And that made things very, very simple, because it was, you're not trying to be like anti-BC or anti-Fumi or Kudayo. You're trying to be whatever you want to build. And I think that's important, because I've seen it in so many instances where ideologies and everything are imposed from outside, and it's like, okay, but you've not really had any say now. People are coming in and doing this and doing that, and then you're getting frustrated by it. And then how does that manifest? It manifests in relationships breaking down, or just animosity and stuff like that. So fortunately, we've not had to deal with that, which is really beneficial, because I don't know how I'd be able to react to that sort of stuff. I don't like stress. So
So would you say that having a strong foundation with your partner has helped you
100%
be
100%
dad as such?
100%, because you need each other, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, not everyone's situation is that. Some people's situations that they're separate from things, but even in those situations, when you speak to people, having that relationship where it's still cordial and you're doing things for the love of the child is very beneficial. So that foundation of just that mutual respect and, okay, this is what we're doing it for, is so key, and it's definitely helped us with, so far, raising Micaiah.
What kind of parent would you say you are? Are you active, distant, present, but
I'm very active, and I think anyone, well, I don't want to make an assumption, but I feel like anyone that's had a child within the last year or so would have to be active, because it's a pandemic. So if you're locked in the house with this baby, you're gonna have to do stuff. Like, naturally, when my aunties had cousins and everything, I was always there. Like, I was always interested, and I've always like loved children. Like, even like I've coached, I've done so many things like development and everything. I've always loved it. So when it's your own child now, it's the culmination of so many different things you see, and you want to bring it in because this is your child. So I'm very active, but the key thing for me is it's being present in the moment. Like, I feel like, especially because of, again, ideologies of, you know, African backgrounds, you know, be the breadwinner, do this, do that. What you don't get told or what you don't hear is, it's one thing to, you know, financially support your family, but to actually be present in your child's life is such a massive thing. And maybe that's part of the reason why, not that we don't have role models, but we don't have those conversations where it's like, okay, well, me and my dad were close, me and my dad did this and that. And that's part of the reason why if I take a picture of my son and I don't show his face, people are like, oh my gosh, you're the best parent in the world, because that sort of being present side is not there a lot. So I'd say I'm very, very active.
What kind of conversations would you like to have with your dad before having your son?
Good question. I had some conversations way before, and it was like, for me, it was when I had conversations with him, it was about whatever transpired, why did it transpire? And without going like too much into it, like my dad wasn't around, but he had experienced that same sort of fate himself.
Okay.
So having that conversation is that if you had gone through something like that, what made you follow that? And I'll be honest, growing older, like, and seeing things and experiencing life, you tend to realize that sometimes people have things they're battling or life. Like, you know, when you're young, you see something and that doesn't make sense. 1 + 1 is 2. But as you get older, you start to realize that there's actually so much deep stuff involved. Like, I remember having a conversation with one of my boys and saying to him that sometimes your parents may be estranged. It's not my specific situation, but your parents may be estranged. And you think that, something happened. But you don't realize that sometimes, like in actual some relationships, some people just don't like each other anymore. And then it goes left and then it's like that. So, but those things are not what go through your head when you're young. Yeah. And with him, like, I'll be honest, I did have a lot of resentment for him not being there, this and that, because I was like, okay, how would that have affected me? And then I realized that he probably has his own things. He probably may not have even been able to ask the questions I asked him about why his father wasn't there and everything. So, yeah, you just have to learn to forgive and realize that your path is your path and you have to take with whatever you've got and then go with it. So, yeah, it was definitely a massive learning way before I even got to the point where I was having my son.
Do you feel like you're playing clean up duty? Sort of like the message your dad had and his dad had. You're trying to clean it up so your son doesn't have the same thing.
So initially, that's when that first thought in terms of, okay, I've got to be better than this. I've got to be better than this example. You're thinking that I have to be better than all of these generations of Black fathers that we've not had, all of this stuff. And then you realize that if you're trying to do that, you're not being present in the moment. You're always going to try and fight against this image that you don't even know is there. Like I said before, I didn't have this image of what a father was. So if I'm trying to fight and be this perfect thing and be like, I'm trying to be better than this and this and that, what am I actually fighting against? And I just realized it's just about finding my own path and going with it and just trying to enjoy it all as well. Because like parenthood is it's a blessing. Like if we really go through it, having a child is not something, even though we see loads of children popping up left and center, it's not something that everyone can do. So to be a father is a blessing in itself, and it's something that every single day I thank the Lord that, you know what, I have this. I didn't need any additional motivation in my life. Like I was always going, but now I have this embodiment of purpose. Like I see my son and I see purpose, and like for me, it's like I couldn't ask for anything more. So yeah, no, it's a blessing.
That's beautiful.
No, it's the truth. Like honestly, even like where I am now, I've told a few people about it, and I think I've spoken about it before, but when he came around, coronavirus, everything was happening, I was then on furlough, and then it was like, okay, I have a passion of what I want to do. I have a situation I'm in now. So sports media. Yeah. I was in a situation where I was at a place, done my graduate scheme, was doing relatively well. And it's like, okay, I don't want to live life with regret. And that's one thing I've always said. I don't want to live with regret. And I don't want to be thinking, I'm the type of person, I don't want to think, what if? Yeah. And I had to look at myself and say, okay, you know what? I'm in a situation here where if I don't really go after what I want to go, am I going to be able to look at my son in the eye and tell him in the future, you know what, go and pursue your dreams? When I did it in that moment, even though it could have been made things tough. And I did. And it's now about making sure that no matter what I do, I can look at him in his face and say, you know what, you go and do this. And if he goes, oh, but what about when that happened, Dad? I can be like, you know what, well, I did what I could. So yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it. You just learn as you go. You literally just learn as you go. There's no book for this. Yeah. There's actually no book. There's no.
Do you wish there was a book or at least like a class to bring?
It's a good question. Do you know this? I personally, knowing what I know now, nah, I wouldn't want a book. Really? Because it's a journey. It's a daunting one, but it's a journey. Like even if you look like, it's so funny, look at a baby. A baby is in like the womb for however 6 to 9. I came out 3 months early, so I was 6. He came out 2 weeks early. He was for 9 months. A baby's in there for that. They come out and naturally they just learn how to survive. Like they start breathing and everything. That's pretty much what parenthood It's like your baby's here now. Okay, cool. How do you go on about it? Like you make it work. Like whether it's tough, whether it's easy, like this is to not even to they're 18, because I mean I'm still my mom's son now. So like that is your child now, and you learn to make it work. So if you have a book, like it's always, all it's going to be is other people's preconceptions of what they think is right, which may be wrong. So yeah, I'm just happy that I'm experiencing that journey, and my journey, everyone's journey is going to be different, but a lot of people that have had children now, the one thing they share is they had their child through a time where the world was completely different. Like all these pandemic babies, like that all they know is FaceTime and all this type of stuff. Like it's very different. So I can't tell someone else specifically in the near future, okay, this is what happened, because I mean, I didn't have my parents to help me in that time because they couldn't. It's different. I know people who've had children recently and their partners couldn't be with them when they were having, because everything. So it's.
Was you with your partner?
We were just before that, so it was fortunate. It was fortunate, but yeah, I know people that haven't been able to have that, or people that they couldn't have visitors at the hospital, etc. So literally, everyone's journey is different with it.
So then, what 3 lessons would you say that are universal in terms of like what you think needs to happen for men to become fathers, or at least to become better men to teach other people?
It's a good question. It's a really good question. 3 lessons for men that want to become fathers or on that journey. One thing for me is being present. And
can you define what being present means?
For me, it's like ultimately like your child is your child. And like, don't get me wrong, some people are going to have the luxury of maybe being with their partner or being in a situation where they can be there every day. Some people are not, because ultimately everyone's situation is different. But it's the fact that no matter what happens, your child can feel your presence. Your child knows that you're there. And don't get me wrong, it's easier said than done, because I know of people who have not been afforded that opportunity where, because of whatever situation, they can't be with the child, or there's arguments and everything. But at the end of the day, what will happen is your child will grow up and know the truth. That's one thing I've definitely learned. Like even in my own situation, growing up and everything, I ended up knowing the truth of what happened between my mum and dad and everything, and therefore I didn't hold any resentment, because it's like, okay, it is what it is. Your child will know one day. I've seen so many people where like their parents are not together, and it's one thing they're told by the family, but when they get older, they realize, hold on, it was this, and then they realize, hold on, my dad was actually, even though my dad wasn't, maybe didn't see me for 5 years, he was present, he tried and everything. And for me, it's just about, if you've got the opportunity to be present, because not everyone actually gets that opportunity. Some people actually don't get to be with their kids. And like, I can't lie, if that was me, it would break me. It would actually break me. But
against the villain that you can't be there.
It would break me. So if you can be present as much as you can. And if you can't be there, just let your presence be known that you're actually there. So that's one thing. The second thing is like, be the best version of yourself. And the reason that is because through small things, I've realized that like children are actually sponges. Like my son, he copies my facial expressions. So like that means that any little thing in their head, they're just programming stuff. Like he had to buy him like a Henry Hoover because he sees me and his mum cleaning around the house. So he just cleans around the house and everything. So that always try and be the best you. So like, even if it's in your daily practices, even though they don't understand what hard work or stuff is, they see it and it's ingrained in them that, okay, well, this is normal. So that's another thing. I think the third thing for anyone that wants to be a father or is going on that journey, that's important, is you know what, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's one thing that I struggled with, because naturally, as the type of person I am, I don't like causing anyone sort of like, you're going having to go out your way. I just like to get on with stuff. But I'll be honest, there was times where stuff was going on and it was like, this is not easy, I'm burning out. My missus is burning out. And it's like, okay, you know what, who can we ask for help? Is it one of my little cousins coming to spend time with him? Or is it, Mum, can you like take him for 5 minutes and everything? Because that saying of that, it takes a village to raise a child, it's real. And it's not just about them actually physically raising the child, it's about them uplifting you to make sure that you can actually raise your own child. So don't be afraid to ask for help, even if it's like to speak to people about like experiences they had before. I remember when we were doing the whole before you have the baby, like the whole paternal class and everything, it's like, this is how you wash the baby. And I remember at first I was thinking these people, they're going to be telling us, but to a certain extent it helps because they've seen stuff, and even though they're not saying that this is exactly what we have to do, they can say that, in my experience, this is what we did. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. It doesn't make you any less of a man. And that's another thing, that because ultimately as men, as young black men, there's this whole sort of like, okay, you have to be a man, you have to be strong and everything, but like it's okay to actually ask for help. Like there's actually strength in numbers. So that's another thing that I'll definitely say.
So then describe a low moment for you, like in your sort of journey so far, and how you dealt with it.
A low moment for me, if I'm being honest, it was the fact that I thought that it's when I realized that even though like I thought I was being present, I truly wasn't. And it was because I was working, my missus was working at the time. It's like, okay, cool, I have to graft, I have to do this. So I'm doing freelance gigs, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And in your head, what happens is you slip into this mode or sort of like where generations before us, especially black generation and everything, it's like you're the chief earner. So yeah, you're doing all this stuff and everything. And then the small things you're realizing you're not doing, like you'd finish work now, like pick up your son for 10 minutes. You might go there and you might sit down, but you're not actually present, you're not actually engaging. And then it really hit me one day. I was like, hold on, like I'm there, but like I'm not fully there. I've not switched off the world to focus. And I was like, right, even though it might be draining me, I need to make sure that just because I'm, financially making sure everything's all right, that I'm not just neglecting the small things that make the world of a difference. Even if it's the stuff like helping my partner with stuff. That's another massive thing about being present. Like just because I'm doing stuff, time off. So that was a moment when I realized that even though I thought I was, the pressures on me made me realize that I wasn't. And I had to snap out of it to make sure it wasn't a habit and really zone back into making sure that I was present.
Well, maybe you're so self-aware to recognize that, because it's hard to be self-aware, to be honest.
I think it's like it's that honesty with yourself, right? Like, when you start taking shortcuts, you realize that you get your time savings, then you start realizing, hold on, okay, well, this is not what it was supposed to be. And I think that's what happened. Like, I remember I'd finish like whatever I do, or like instead, even the small things, like, we have bath time and everything. Bath time, I just start creaming out, just put the pajamas, and I was like, hold on, that's not how it should be. Like, this is an opportunity for me and him to bond and everything. So that's when I started realizing I had to go, hold on, like, not even that I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just not embracing this and being as fully present as I could. Listen, he's grown so much already. Exactly that, he won't be young again. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to make sure, even though it's things that might take an extra 10 minutes. That 10 minutes means nothing in the grand scheme of a lifetime. So, and a relationship that you're gonna build. This is it. So that's when I realized that, okay, you know what, I need to really tap back into it. And it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this. Maybe over a period of like a month. Yeah. And I realized, okay, cool. And I was thankful for it because I've had that experience. If it happens again, I know that, okay, I need to tap back. And it's normal. I feel like it happens with everything. Like it can happen with work and everything, where you realize that, okay, I'm not actually really doing things as I really want to because there's so much going on. It's natural, but it's about getting back to where you want to be. So, yeah. Do you think he recognises when you're not messing up, but when you're not present and you're not really here? I think babies recognise a lot. They're such intelligent beings. Like, even if it's a small thing where, like, let's say a baby's babbling and then you're not really, like, fully there. They notice. They probably won't remember and jot it down and be like, this stupid man, the time I wanted to sing, he was doing. They're not like that, but, like, they can feel that sort of thing. Like, disconnect. They can... Not even disconnect, but they can feel that the optimum of your attention is not fully there. And of course, naturally, babies get distracted and they might do something else, but they can feel it at the moment that, hold on, you're not really paying attention. And it's so funny because I say all of this to say that sometimes you might give all of that attention and the baby doesn't even care. That baby's like, I want to go and watch TV, but at least you can say, you know what, I was there. So, Yeah, that's what's important to me still.
What do you do to de-stress? Like to step away when you need a moment?
Good question. Exercise, walks.
Plenty of walks during.
Yeah, plenty of walks during lockdown. I'm fortunate enough that my work's a passion, so that kind of takes me away from things, which is quite nice. But football, the stuff that I kind of had before, which was normal, it's the same thing now that I just tap into. But I don't ever get too much in a place where it's like, well, naturally these things are just always in place, so it's all cool. But even like, I remember there was a phase in lockdown where like me going on walks was great for me, but it was a good bonding time with him. Like I'll just push him in the buggy. Like he'll fall asleep or he'll see stuff and everything can be amazing. At the same time, for me, it's like, okay, we're together, we're talking, but I'm just in fresh air, taking it easy. So yeah, you can sometimes kill two birds with one stone from that perspective, where even though I'm taking time away from myself, I'm still being able to enjoy it with this little bubba. So yeah.
Do you feel like you and your partner have gotten closer because of your son, or is it more?
100%, especially because of the circumstances we found ourselves in, where naturally most people that come from sort of, I wouldn't even say African, but black homes, it's naturally when you, that whole it takes a village to raise a child thing is literal. So when you have your baby, X, Y, and Z are coming to cook for you, X, Y, and Z are living in your house, like one of your parents might come and live. We didn't have that at all because it was like households couldn't mix and everything. So we really had to pull together and like really get stuff done. And obviously because you couldn't see people and everything, when things started open up, everyone was saying was, you guys really tried, because like we've not had to do that. You guys have really tried. So definitely you realize how much as a team you have to work as in those situations where you can't tap into that support around you. So yeah, that definitely made us closer.
I know you're a Christian.
Yeah.
How has having a son sort of changed your relationship with faith or discipline in your faith? Or has it?
I would say it's made me like tap into it a lot more, in the sense that like, obviously you know there's a higher being, but you know that ultimately you want to set this great example for your child, and that you want to make sure that you are leading them in the right direction. Like, especially even the small things where like now, like you have to be the sort of like custodian of your household to make sure everything's in line. That stuff is definitely a lot more. And I would say I'm quite a spiritual person, and that's why like in terms of like my personal life and everything, I've always been someone that I don't show too much, because people say evil eye, but just in terms of like where my energy is directed, I like to make sure that everything I can control as much as I can. So even with that, it made me realize like, okay, like it's not just myself, it's this little young boy. Like so certain things like I had to make sure I put in place over his life to make sure that, okay, you know what, everything's patterned with him. So it made me tap into another level where it was like, okay, it's not just yourself, it's a family that you're doing all of this for, that you have to make sure that everything goes right, and you have to make sure that you put yourself on the forefront to protect. So yeah, that was definitely something that happened.
What are your thoughts on discipline? Is in like strict beating, or the
you see with discipline, like when you grow up, you think, what my mom did to me, I'll make sure I'll never do it. The thing is, I'm one of those people where I say, you know what, it's good to have ideas in your head that you say you'll never do this, but you don't know how life plays out. You really don't. I would love to think that I'm not going to go down that route, and I'm going to make sure that I don't go down this route of like, you know what, I want to smack and do that, because it's not me. Like it's not me. And if I'll be honest, I feel like a lot of that stuff was misdirected aggression from, and that's how it was just sort of passed down. But in terms of discipline, like I think of the stuff that really like disciplined me, and it wasn't like sort of like beats and stuff like that. It's when my mom said I can't play football. It's like you took away something I loved, and and you taught me a lesson. I think that discipline is about teaching lessons. It's not about just pain. It's about making sure this is wrong, and this will happen, and this will happen. So whereas back then we talk, but not just. It's like, but you're not. What have I done wrong here? Get wrong. That's not, my mom wouldn't even like that. To be fair, it's what I saw in church. What certain man's parents would be. So with me, like even now, like there's certain things like, obviously babies are babies, innit? They'll just do whatever. Like, we have a snack cupboard, and like he will go in, he's small, he'll go in and open, and he'll just take like 2 bags of Wotsits. And but you have to discipline to be like, no, you can only have one.
Yeah.
So it's about teaching him, because obviously he still can't understand anything. So it's like, Micaiah, no, just one. And he might cry, and then you explain, and then he suddenly you realise he understands.
So you're in the method of like talking and speaking rather than shouting.
Teaching the lesson, teaching the lesson, as opposed to just like, this is wrong. Like, if something's wrong, explain to me what's right, explain to me what's wrong. That's kind of where my head is with it. And hopefully, he's still small. So all of this, what I'm saying now is just talk. When he's older and he's a proper toddler, we'll see what happens then, because he's more receptive to stuff. But at the moment, that's the sort of methodology. So, yeah.
So then, what are your opinions? Say your opinions on like single parent households. How has coming from one? How does it make you okay? Cool, you don't want that for yourself, or is it like life happens and you just don't have to come?
For me, it's about life happens. Like, I'll be honest. I know I mentioned at the top that like not having my dad, I saw like certain things and everything, but you can't miss what you don't have. So
to a certain extent,
like I didn't know what it was like to have 2 parents constantly there. So it's like having my one parent there with my mom did everything for me. It's like I don't know where I lacked. The only thing that I can attain to what I lacked is what I thought fatherhood or what fathers should do. So it's this perception. But really and truly, my mom did everything for me.
Okay, so how has your lifestyle changed since having a son?
That's a good question. Do you know what is it? With me, I'm a very like punctual, like very like, okay, go this quick, like like if you have to go, boom, do this, bam, bam, bam. But when you have a child, that can't really you might be thinking, no, I want to do Tesco food shop, 20 minutes, I'll go in, boom, I'm out. With a child, it's not. You try and go, he's pooed as you're about to go, you now have to change him, you're on your way there, you're shopping, next you know, he's like, you have to feed him. Like, there's so many different variables that you can't account for, because it's not just you. And I thought, at the beginning, you know, but like, I'm super organized, I could do all this type of stuff. 3-4 times it happened. I remember there was one time I went to like my mum's, I forgot the bag. Yeah, like you realize that you can't, your life has to change. You work around them, not sort of, okay, they're just part of it. So that was the major thing. That was the wake up call. Because I typically thought, no, it's calm. Like, what? School run, sat nav, nursery run, 30 minutes, all right, cool, boom, we'll leave at this time. Nah, you're about to take him. Nappy needs to be changed. Like, there's just, you can't account for certain things. That's one thing I've learned. So it's made me more appreciative of that in life in general.
So how does it affect your sort of mental health or your stress levels? Like, when something unaccounted for happens, like, how do you deal with it? Are you effing and blinding, or?
No, you just have to laugh it off, because this person is none the wiser. Like, he's actually none the wiser. There's been times where we're going somewhere and he's at that stage where he's feeding himself now. So you put the bib on, you put everything on, spaghetti ends up in the hair, water bottles thrown on himself, you have to go and change your clothes. But to him, he knows no better. Like, he's just having a whale of a time. To you, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what have you done? Goes by what we said before, like, there's certain things you just can't, like, why am I going to start shouting for that for? So it doesn't really affect, you just come to realize that that's like, it's literally at life. There's some things that you just can't account for, and you just have to roll with the punches. That's
because of your upbringing. Like, was your mum, I wouldn't say a very shouty person, but like, was she calm and collected, so that makes you calm and collected?
My mum,
as a woman,
I think my mum, when it comes to my mum was very like, not stern, but like, my mum can switch it on. Like, I think with me, where it comes from about being calm and collective is like, just my persona in general. I'm very like chill. Like, I'm serious about stuff, but at the same time, I like get stuff done, but I'm chilled with it. So, and when it's just a child, you just realize that you actually cannot do anything. You cannot. So it's like, there's no point being angry at that. Don't get me wrong, that sometimes, like, you might want to leave for a certain time. Like, there's the nursery one is the funniest bit. I want to leave the house for X amount of time. you can't. You leave like 50 minutes there, then you're stuck in traffic. You're thinking, then you realize, you know what? Like at the end of the day, if you get there late, you get there late.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. So
you still get the end of the day. Yeah.
This is it. Yeah. No, that's the the gist of that one.
Mm-hmm. Have you lost any friends when you announced that you're gonna have a son? When your son is not here, and then the year after, or 16 months?
It's a good question because the thing is, a lot of people didn't know I had a son until he was one.
Why is that?
Because I'm a private person. So like my people around me knew. When I was working, they only knew because I went on paternity leave. Like my manager knew, and some people knew, but I knew paternity leave. Some people only found out that I had a son when he was one because I posted about it. Some people probably thought it was my cousin up until that point or something. But yeah, I didn't lose, like my tribe has always been my tribe. Yeah. So I didn't really lose anyone per se. And I guess the last year has been crazy because we've been in the pandemic. So in terms of seeing people, I wouldn't have seen people anyway, which has kind of been like just how it's gone. So I've not lost anyone per se. Some people were offended by the whole sort of like not telling them about the son and everything. And that's natural because people want to know about news and everything. Yeah. But ultimately, you have to do what you have to do within your journey. And for me, it was like, I need to protect this child. Like, I'm not hiding anything, but it's like, I just don't like, I don't put my private life out there. And that's why even when I show him stuff now, I would like, you'd hardly see my son's face or something. So, because that's just how I am. Yeah. Like, and everyone raises their family different, and that's just how I do my thing. So I haven't lost anyone per se. I think if anything, I'm excited because now that things are opening up and everything, even family members, they're really getting to know him now as he's older, and like my close friends and everything will get that opportunity now that things are opening up as well. Like, so yeah, I didn't lose anyone, fortunately. That would have been a bit like crazy because I've got some real characters around me that you hope that your children can sort of build memories with them and everything. And because especially within like my friendship groups and everything, this is the first baby around. So it's like everyone's baby. I remember like when I had the name and I had my close friends around me, that's one thing I said. I was like, this baby is like everyone's baby. Like so yeah.
You mentioned tribe. How supportive are your friends? How have they been during the whole process?
My friends are very supportive. I feel like because they know how I am, they marry the two up. So like I wouldn't say like lone wolf, but people know that you may not hear from me because I'm grafting and do this all of that, but they'll come and check in. Like once in a while, I'll be like, I hope everything's alright, or how is Makai and everything. Like they've been very supportive. And one thing I've learned, especially having a child, is typically because everyone's excited at that moment, like it's like, you kind of have this image that okay, I'm going to be going to see the baby and everything, but it's not really practical. At the same, everyone's working, everyone's got a life, like, and he's my responsibility. So I'm not expecting people to come and like, okay, I'm going to pick him up and everything. And like I said before, because of how I am, I don't want to like make things hard for people and stuff. But at the same time, sometimes you have to look help. So I am looking forward to now, like, you know, the man them coming to take the baby for a little bit and everything. Like, and that's actually something I actually observed from other people. Like, I saw.
Are you comfortable that your friend is just
some more than others for sure? Like, there's some that I know that they've handled kids. There's some that probably would have to be there just to think. But no, I'm fortunate. He's older. He's robust. He's not like a little baby. So like for them, it's probably this is the fun bit now. I think before they wouldn't have had fun because it's a baby that's, you know, it's spewing, it's eating, it's pooing, it's sleeping. Now it's actually like a toddler that you can do stuff with. So I'm probably more sort of like, he'd be all right. They will probably be more, he's probably more scary than them, to be honest.
Have you got any friends, like in particular, you know, that's Uncle Joe, he's a crazy one, be careful, you know, he has stories for you?
No, so tell you what, like what I did was, because again, like everyone's so quick, like he has like multiple godmothers, godfathers, and like
that's beautiful.
Even like when people could come around and everything, he's seen them, like he's had FaceTime calls and everything. Like I'll get like a random bag where they've sent stuff and everything. So he's still getting to know family because again, like pandemic babies, it's been so crazy. Like you would have seen everyone through FaceTime before you actually see them in real life.
Yeah.
So he's getting to that stage where he's starting to meet everyone now. And like, at first he'd be like, who the hell is this? But because he's older, it'd probably take him a bit longer to sort of be like, whereas when you're a baby, you just pass the uncle this one, pass the just pass the parcel. But so yeah, he will acclimatise to it, and yeah, I'm sure it'll be beautiful. I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Okay, then lastly, the biggest question. What kind of thing would you want to tell your friends about fatherhood before they have kids? Like, what do you think needs to happen or no?
That's a good question. Fatherhood is beautiful. Like, parenthood in general is a beautiful, beautiful gift. Like, it has its highs, it has its lows. Like, it is very tiring, but it's so rewarding. Like, I've said it like to so many of my friends. Like, working from home has been great and everything, but there's been times I go out and I come back and I see like my son's face, and it's like, okay, I understand it now. I remember the first time I ever got a phone call from the nursery saying that, oh, listen, he's not feeling well, you need to come pick him up. Going there and seeing him, and the worry in the car, you're thinking, what's wrong with him? Like, there's so many like small moments that you realize, you know what, this is worth it. I remember when he was born, he wasn't latching on properly. So we're chilling and everything in the hospital. And then they came and they were like, are you his parents? And then you look and you go, and it doesn't click in your head, and you go, oh yeah, like actually, like I'm a parent. The second you get home and it's like you realize, okay, you know what, we're not in the hospital anymore, it's just us and the baby. Like, there's so many small moments you realize, you know what, that's what it's worth, that's what it's for. Even like you go through the nursery at, oh, Micaiah's done X, Y, and Z, and he's learning how to do this. Like, it's so rewarding. It is tough, it is hard, but it's a journey. Like anything in life, it's a journey, and it's a true beautiful thing. And like I said before, it's, for me, it just reaffirmed what purpose is. It just gave me a reason to. I understand why I'm here. You get me? So, like, I've told the man, then, listen, don't waste time. Like, do it whilst you're in your prime, because listen, right now when you have energy, like when you get older and you haven't. Listen, I remember that I've always been someone that's been relatively fit, but I remember when he started running around and stuff. And I tried to pick him up, and I was blue, and I said to her, this is not good. I had to get back in the gym. I had to make sure that. So when you're in your peak condition, that's when you need to tap into it, because but like if the man them are ready, like everyone's circumstance is different. The man them are ready and everything. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to do. Like when it happens, it happens as well. Like something you just can't wreck. Like I didn't know that it would happen when it happened, but
you're happy that you did.
100%.
You said you went on, is it paternity leave?
Yes.
How long was that? And do you feel like it needs to be the same amount as mothers get?
It's a good question. So I had 2 weeks. My situation was so funny. I had 2 weeks paternity leave.
Yeah.
I came back to work for a week and a half. And then Boris said that everyone has to work from home. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm laughing. And then they said, okay, that work from home thing was extended. I said, like, cool, this is fantastic. So I was fortunate that I kind of like, even though my paternity leave was 2 weeks is actually generous, apparently. Like, so typically it's like a week. 2 weeks is actually generous.
How do you have enough time to?
You don't. You honestly don't. And typically, especially in those 2 weeks, in my situation anyway, a lot of that 2 weeks was spent making sure that they were okay. So like doing all the stuff, like going out and everything, it was like literally making sure they're okay. So in terms of the actual bonding, like it was in small spurts. It wasn't like, okay, I just have time to just be with my child. So I think it does need to be longer. I feel like ultimately we talk about, fathers being present, but you start as you need to go on, right? If you've not even got the sort of time to do that from the beginning, it's going to be very difficult. And I'm probably talking from a place of privilege, because I've not had to experience that battle of coming back from work, having only a set amount of hours to spend, and then going to work the next day. I've been fortunate that I can work and he's there. And I wasn't working, I was on furlough. For goodness how many months. So my job was literally just me and you're gonna play. So I'm speaking from a place of privilege, but I think if you do have more time, you can set those practices from early that kind of stick with you in the long run. I feel like if I was in a situation where I didn't have that, I would have still tried to do it, but my life would have been dictated by, I don't know, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, however you want to do, then extra crafts and everything. I would have had to make slots for my child as opposed to being as present as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think more time would be a great thing, because I think it's so important, especially when the child's born, like just everyone just to
bond and solidify that kind of love.
Exactly.
So then what would you say, like, Boris, we're talking to you, like, what things would need to happen for fathers who are soon to be fathers, or fathers who are currently in their fatherhood journey, legally, classes, things to support men in their journeys from a wider sort of
I think longer paternity is like a major one. I feel like there's a lot of stigma, and not rightly so, but typically because a woman gives birth to a child, a lot of rights and everything are going to be with a woman. But I know many circumstances where a man doesn't really have the rights to speak on certain things or situations because he's not giving birth, even though like he's the father and everything. I feel like that stuff like that has to be sort of reviewed, because a lot of men are not given that opportunity to be a father to their child for whatever reason. So I think that's important. I feel like as well, stuff like this is important. It's not even Boris, but it's stuff like within the community where we're actually talking about stuff like, I think I mentioned it before, where people will see like a snap of the back of my child's head and be like, oh, this is you're amazing, that father, I think. Or remember, I uploaded one video where I was blown onto his stomach and I wasn't even recording him, but he was just laughing, and they were like, oh, that just sounds like pure joy, like this is amazing. And it's like, we don't speak enough about things, or the society we're in makes us want to talk about sorrow before we talk about joy. And it's good that we talk about these things so people understand, that people actually have some sort of insight or relatability. Like a lot of the fathers I know are much way older than me. Like I don't know many fathers that are, my age. Or fortunate for me though, the fathers are older than me. They had kids but around the same age I did. So they can tell me about certain things, etc. So it's important to have that, because if you can't relate to something, it makes it very difficult. Don't get me wrong, like I said, everyone has their own journey and it's great to go through it, but relatability is so key. Like if you see 10 people like you doing something, you'd be like, okay, that's for me. So as a community, we need to elevate voices more, speak of things more. That's why this platform is amazing. That's why even before I came on this platform, I've been speaking of things I want to do, just from my experiences, knowing that, okay, not only can it help others, but I can learn from it as well. Like my little one he's becoming a toddler. I have no idea how to raise a teenager, but I know people have gone before, and like if they speak on it, I can understand some things. So the community talking is such a key thing. Like we say, it takes a village to raise a child, but
where's the village?
Where is the village? Where is the village? The village doesn't have to be your close friends. It could be people on online communities. It could be people that that you would have never thought you would have listened to, but there's a relatability there, and they've said something that resonates with you. So
that's enough, to be honest. No, thank you for that answer. Just one last one. Do you actively seek out like dads, your dad friends? That's it, dad friends.
So yeah,
or different races, not just black dad friends.
Yeah. It's quite funny. So I've got I'd say a friend. He's much older. He had his children. He had his child very late on, and this is someone that I started speaking to through like work when I was looking at freelance gigs and everything. And I remember when he was saying that, oh, he's had his child. Like it's the most amazing thing. I was like, I can't wait for that to happen. And now we speak about kids as opposed to work. Do you get where I'm coming from? So that I have a few people that they're like dad friends, but like they're not the same age as me. But like they were dad friends. We'll talk about kids, we'll talk about anything else, which is quite nice. It's quite refreshing. And it's lovely, because ultimately when you're speaking about a child, you're speaking about their pride and joy. So it's a lovely conversation. It's never, like I said, in the world of sorrow, you actually talk about something really joyful. So it's important. And even like I've met people online that they've had kids and we've started speaking and everything. Not linked up and everything, but like just through speaking about experiences. Even like I do stuff through sports media, but I know I've managed to speak to people and be like, oh, listen, well, this is what I experienced at that age. You might experience that. Stuff like that's nice. Like, two things can coexist. It's not just about content and stuff. So, yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, 110%.
It was lovely talking to you.
No, thank you for having me.
No,
Thank you. I
of course.
appreciate it.
Always.
Appreciate it a lot.
Wait, I've got another question before you cut.